All right, folks, welcome back. Happy Monday. Look at that. Gulf breeze, gorgeous, gorgeous day in sunny South Florida again. I think Gulf breeze, I'm guessing, is on the panhandle, but could be wrong, but what a beautiful day it is there today. Happy Monday. You know, Brian Glenn, the chief White House correspondent, he made quite the headlines this past weekend on Friday when he asked the million-dollar question inside that tense Oval Office. The question was a turning point. It shifted the mood inside the disastrous meeting. Let's refresh your memory what Brian Glenn asked of Zelenskyy. Watch.
Second question.
My second question for President Zelenskyy.
No. Why don't you wear a suit? Why don't you wear a suit? You're at the highest level in this country's office and you refuse to wear a suit. Just want to see if do you own a suit?
Yeah, problems.
A lot of Americans have problems with you not respecting
I don't
the
have
dignity
such.
of this office.
I will wear a costume after this war will finish.
Okay.
Yes, maybe one.
Maybe something
maybe
like this.
something like
Yes,
yours.
sir.
Yes.
That'd be great.
Maybe something better. I don't know. We will see. Maybe something cheaper than yeah. Thank you. Thank you for.
You guys are loving it. I'm on the Rumble feed right now. You guys are loving it. We're going to get to a bunch of the stuff. But that was fascinating. That was fascinating because it was an interesting question. And Brian kind of fed into what Trump had said earlier in the day when he greeted Zelenskyy. He's like, oh, look what you're wearing. He's dressing up. It was like a black jumpsuit, whatever the heck he was wearing. It was ridiculous. Anyway, so Brian says this question, and it went viral. It went everywhere over the weekend. Look at the New York Times. The New York Times picked this up. Why don't you wear a suit? A right-wing news outlet with coveted access questions Zelenskyy. Yeah, coveted access because Brian Glenn was right inside that the Oval Office right there talking to Zelenskyy, and then Brian got on Air Force One a little late in the afternoon, and I noticed it was Daily Mail had it. I noticed Fox News had it. Everyone, Axios had it. It was just fascinating that it's such a simple question that kind of hit maybe even every human being. And Zelenskyy's answer, I mean, if you remember Zelenskyy's like, oh, you know, maybe I'll wear a suit like that when we're not in war, but maybe I'll wear a better suit. Like that was a snarky answer from a guy who should have 0.0 snark in the Oval Office when he's begging for money from the American people right after he gets smoked by Trump and J.D. Vance. So really, hats off to Glenn, but hey, I don't know. I think he's got some future with Men's Warehouse. Sell some suits, brother. You got to play that up a little bit. You can work that. A couple of the other things, a little housekeeping, just because this is happening so fast. We're a live show. Trump yesterday afternoon declared a cryptocurrency reserve, and that sent things crazy. It's crypto and ballistic. It was way down. Bitcoin had been trailing lower, right around 80,000 per Bitcoin. As soon as he announced it, it jacked up to 95,000 in just a couple of minutes, really, within an hour. It messed around there. It's starting to back off a little bit again, but it's really fascinating that Trump, who sees the bigger playing field, again, the difference between a reserve and a stockpile. A stockpile is like our oil stockpile. You have 700 million barrels for an emergency use. It's there. It's there. A reserve means you continually buy it, and that's really supportive to the price of cryptocurrency. So if you're ever thinking about it, look for a price. At least the U.S. government is going to be buying crypto along with you. Again, that's Trump has done it, something that no other president has ever done. There were 94% fewer border crossings in the month of February, Trump's first month in office, a record low since they've been keeping the statistics, 94% less than a year ago, 96% less than the all-time high. So Trump has clearly done what he promised and closed the border, effectively closed the border. He will continue to do that. And the other one I wanted to point out was today, First Lady, in fact, in the last maybe 30 minutes or so, maybe hour, she's on Capitol Hill right now, First Lady getting involved in the presidency, the Trump administration 2.0, very early this time. Last presidency, she got involved. She had Be Best, and that came out maybe 2 years into the presidency. But right now, I was part of that one, actually. She was amazing. She's doing it right away. So she's on Capitol Hill today with Senator Ted Cruz, with the House Speaker and whatnot. So there are quite a few important people, and it was all surrounding around revenge porn, and it's part of her Be Best. She wants to clean that up, get that out of the American zeitgeist. So, First Lady getting involved. We had the opportunity to speak to General Michael Flynn about the Zelenskyy meeting right before he was getting on a flight. So we only had a few minutes, and I had to do it a little bit earlier, otherwise I would have done it live with you. But just take a listen. He's really, really brilliant. Listen to his assessment of what went on in the Oval Office in the last couple of days. General, really appreciate your time, folks. He's in the airport, about to board a plane, final call. So, General, we just wanted to get your sense of, this whole fallout. Now we hear, Keir Starmer in Europe saying that we're gonna handle the security. I feel like these clowns in Europe are pushing us closer and closer to World War III. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are before you have to jump on that plane, sir.
Yeah, great, Eric, and thanks for allowing me a few minutes. Listen, folks, we're in a really, really dangerous moment in history. I think what has happened is the Europeans have taken advantage of the United States of America for far too long, and that gravy train is about to end with Donald J. Trump, and that's basically what we're seeing. I mean, they've been ripping us off, particularly Ukraine. We're talking about $500 billion that has been taken from the United States. And Zelenskyy, sitting there, has the gall to sit there and continue to ask for more. And many of the European nations are now saying, well, we're going to take care of our own security. I mean, we basically spent trillions of dollars to resurrect Europe after World War II. And here we are heading into, really dangerous waters here with the potential for a bigger war than is already exists in Eastern Europe and Ukraine. So the attitude, the dismissive attitude by Zelenskyy and by many of the European leaders over what the United States, might do, can do, has done already for not just the last few years, but for decades, is really, really bad. And everybody has seen Donald Trump's recent statement out on some of the comments that Zelenskyy has stated. So I want people to understand that we are on the verge of a very historic moment, and we are either going to see peace break out, which is what Donald J. Trump wants to do, or we're going to move towards a greater, far more dangerous war. And now we're talking about, because they've already been on the table, the use of nuclear weapons. And I hate to even use that word, but if Russia feels threatened, and on their sovereign territory, Putin has he's gonna feel responsible to protect his own citizens. And if Europe all of a sudden starts to do things that look as though they're going to take on his sovereignty, I'm just telling you that really, really dangerous times. And this is why we need cool heads to prevail. President Trump has to really pay attention to everything that's going on, because the wolf that's really, really knocking at our door and that is sitting back, licking their chops, is China. And maybe the next time I come out to here, maybe later this week, Eric, we can talk about China and how does China benefit from what is happening in Europe? Because this is about energy resources. It's about relationships, but it is also about a really dangerous thing called war. And when war breaks out, all hell breaks out, and it's very hard to control the situation once that occurs. So, I appreciate you giving me a few moments, Eric.
Very quickly, I know if you had to go, tell me you got to go. But, sir, just tell us what's the right move regarding NATO? Is Trump playing the cards the right way? And should we basically exit NATO? What are your thoughts of the risk of doing something like that?
Yeah, I think what Trump needs to do is he needs to put on the table that the United States will walk away from NATO if the Europeans don't understand what is at stake here. We really do have to put that on the table. Maybe the usefulness and the utility of NATO has sort of spent its full amount of whatever energy, right? At this point in time, but NATO may be a thing of the past, and there may need to be a new security architecture considered, given the attitudes that the Europeans particularly have over what they see as their responsibilities for the future of Europe, and that's clearly changing. And Zelenskyy is going to take big advantage of this. Zelenskyy he's a whiff in the air right now. He's not going to be around that much longer, I believe. And there's many Ukrainians that want him out. And I have a funny feeling that we're going to see a lot of change here in the next couple of weeks in Ukraine, because the people of Ukraine are sick and tired of it. I mean, don't believe any of the media that says, that he's got, he's popular in his country. He is not. He is definitely not popular.
General, very quickly, I think it's a huge mistake to allow Ukraine into NATO. What are your thoughts? Even if we stay within NATO.
It cannot happen. It cannot happen. If it happens, we are going to walk right into the potential throes of a nuclear war. It cannot happen. It's insane to even think about it. And for Europe to put it on the table, Europe does not know what, they don't know what they're playing with. I mean, this is a kid playing with fire, with a gasoline stick. So I mean, this is not good. Cannot happen.
If you got to go, say you got to go. But I just would like your response to the attitude that was displayed in the Oval Office by Zelenskyy. It's just appalling to me.
Yeah, it's totally disrespectful, completely disrespectful. And the fact that he showed up there in his jumpsuit, which to me is another sign of disrespect, instead of presenting himself as a president of a nation. That's just a sign of the type of person that he is. I want people to understand this guy's an actor. He's an actor. That's what he does well. He's an actor. So don't be surprised that he's got somebody pushing him and pulling his strings behind him to do the kinds of things that we saw demonstrated last Friday inside the Oval Office. Bad guy, not presidential, and President Trump did exactly what he needed to do, and he was incredibly presidential. I mean, on another day with the doors closed, he'd have probably punched him in the nose. But Trump was right to deal with it the way he did, very professionally and very transparently. Thank God. So people in the world could see the type of leader that Zelenskyy is. I mean, this guy he's beyond disrespectful. He's a fool. This man is a fool. And if I were the Minister of Defense or the Commanding General of Ukrainian Armed Forces right now, and I saw that, there's no way in the world that I would continue to fight for this person. He's just a horrible, horrible leader, and he's been wasting the lives and the resources of his own countrymen for his own benefit. That's what we are learning.
Real quickly, President Trump's relationship with Putin, how is it? How should it be? Where do you think it goes from here?
It needs to be very professional. We're talking about two of the largest nuclear weapons holders on the planet, two great nations, historically, culturally, and I think that what he's going to have to do, as he's done, Joe Biden never called Putin once, not once. At least Trump needs to open up that relationship by talking. When you're talking, you can talk about how do we achieve peace. We have to fight for peace as hard as we have to fight in war. And that is what President Donald J. Trump is trying to do.
All right, General, we'll let you make your flight. I hope you didn't miss it. And either way, we'd like to get you back on the show later in the week.
This is the last of the line right here. All right.
Make that flight, sir. Thank you, General. All right, folks. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Big day, man. Wow. The earth shook on Friday. It was a mega earthquake, a political mega earthquake, when Trump really just told Zelenskyy where it was and what's going on here. We're not going to support your ridiculous, whatever that thing is, with that attitude. You really need to get your act together and stop being so demanding and take that snarky, entitled attitude right out the door. Send someone back in who's looking for peace. What really happened was, additionally, a divide happened as well. Of course, everything Trump does divides the Democrats. They hate everything he does. If Trump said, I love oxygen, they'd stick bags around their heads and tape them shut. That's how nuts they are. They hate everything he does. But Trump was speaking for so many American people. Enough is enough with these foreign wars, supporting these endless wars. I want to bring in a good friend of mine. Corey Lewandowski was a 2016 campaign manager for one Donald Trump. And I will tell you, Corey just saw the picture. Everyone said, Trump, probably doesn't have a chance. We like him. But Corey knew exactly what he was doing. And Corey brought Donald Trump to the American people for the first time. He's been involved ever since. He's been a friend of the president and a friend of mine since. Corey, love to bring you in, my friend. How are you? Tell us what your initial reaction to the last, I guess, 72 hours or so, or 100 hours since the Zelenskyy meeting.
Well, look, Eric, I think when you look at what Donald Trump has been doing, not only here domestically, but on the world stage, he has brought back a level of enjoyment to people who want to put America first. But what he has also done is put our allies and our enemies on notice that we will no longer be taken advantage of. And what Volodymyr Zelenskyy did there in the Oval Office, he had an opportunity to say thank you. Thank you to the American people for giving us billions of dollars, for helping us in this war. What Donald Trump said was, we want peace. We want to end this war. And I don't know of any American who thinks that we should be continuing these endless wars. Well, maybe there's a couple in the military-industrial complex. But the reality was Donald Trump said, let's bring peace. Let's bring a conclusion to this. And the only way to do that is to bring the sides together. But Zelenskyy didn't want that. He's been power hungry. He's been the greatest showman, the greatest salesman maybe the world has seen since P.T. Barnum, because every time he comes to the United States, he takes our money and he runs off with it. And Eric, I just want your viewers to remember this. There was a time not that long ago where he was out campaigning for the opposition prior to this election. So what did Donald Trump do in the Oval Office? What did Vice President J.D. Vance do in the Oval Office? They said, we want to work with you. And what Secretary Bessent has told us was that on 2 separate occasions, we offered the opportunity for Zelenskyy to sign a deal so that the United States would have some rights to their minerals. This was supposed to be the formal signing of this at the Oval Office. And instead, Zelenskyy decided to litigate this in front of the world, and President Trump and J.D. Vance called him out on it.
Yeah, they tried to negotiate, actually, get Trump to go further and create a security deal on the heels before he signed. And Trump's like, no, take that stuff out of here. Again, on the top, I mentioned that no matter what Trump does, the left pushes back. Listen to Chris Christie, who you guys ran into in 2016 and has been a thorn in the side ever since. Listen to Christie's assessment.
Let me ask you just a blunt and brief question. I agree with you entirely about the animosity towards Zelenskyy. What explains his solicitous behavior toward Vladimir Putin, which started a long time before that?
Because he wants to be Vladimir Putin. That explains his solicitous conduct to Putin, to Kim Jong-un, to Erdogan, to Xi.
And again, when he says he, Christie means he's saying Trump wants to be Vladimir Putin. Chris Christie has made a career out of being a Republican with one of the worst cases of Trump derangement syndrome. Corey?
Well, look, it's very simple, Eric. You know, a lot of people didn't see the Trump phenomenon coming. What he has done, though, as the president in the first term and now in the second term is he is once again putting Americans first. So when you look at what this president's been able to achieve in just 35 or 36 short days, whether it's closing our border, holding our enemies accountable, making our allies responsible again, you know, standing up for our best friend in the Middle East called Israel. You know, there are some Republicans who don't like the brand of politics which Donald Trump continues to talk about, which is putting America first. They think that we should be putting everyone else first. And so, look, Chris Christie and everyone else is entitled to their opinions, but the only opinion that matters is that of the American people. And by, you know, an overwhelming majority, they voted for Donald Trump to be the next president of the United States. And what he is doing is fulfilling the campaign promises, which is to close the border and put America first.
Corey, again, it goes on and on, not just Chris Christie, actual Democrats, not to rhinos, Christie, you rhino. Actual Democrats, Jasmine Crockett somehow is bubbling up to be some sort of superstar in the Democrat Party, Congresswoman from Texas, who, I don't know, I think she dislikes this country immensely. She certainly dislikes Trump and hates everything that's working that Trump is doing. But listen to Jasmine Crockett. Listen to her take of, by the way, this is nonsense, folks. I had to hear it, so I'm sorry you're going to have to hear this. Listen.
So, unfortunately, we have someone that is occupying the White House, and as far as I'm concerned, he is an enemy to the United States. He swore an oath just like the rest of us. But right now, when you are literally putting us at risk, all because of what? Because you want to convince your followers that you should be a dictator too, that you should never leave the White House, because you don't believe that elections should take place. I don't really understand what is going on, and I don't know what it's going to take to get people to wake up.
I mean, she's got some guts as a congresswoman to talk about the president that way. What are your thoughts on this one?
Look, Eric, Congresswoman Crockett is entitled to her own opinion, but what we know is that Donald Trump is fulfilling the campaign promises, which he outlined, which is to close the border and put Americans first. Eric, you just look at what has transpired, and I don't think Congresswoman Crockett is opposed to the policies of Donald Trump of putting Americans first by closing our borders, because this all of a sudden has found bipartisan support on Capitol Hill, and that's why we're seeing additional resources hopefully being allocated to the Department of Homeland Security so that we can continue to make sure the men and women who are serving every day on the front lines have the tools that they need to be successful. But Eric, just look at the numbers under this administration. The lowest amount of encounters at the southwest border by a factor of 94% in a reduction. Eric, it's astonishing to me where we were 1 year ago at this time. In the month of February last year, we had almost 190,000 encounters at the southwest border. Look, the month of February just ended, and under the Trump administration, we've had just under 9,000 encounters, Eric. So think about that, 190,000 last year, 9,000 this year. And when you look at this in a big picture, there was 165,000 3 years ago and 155,000 2 years ago. So by every discernible metric, Americans are safer today because of the policies of this administration.
It's really amazing too, Corey, is that the wall's not even built yet. And they're doing this just because Tom Homan is employing Donald Trump's message and policy, and those folks that want to come here illegally are thinking twice before they do. We went from 94% lower than a year ago and a record low over the last 20 or 30 years. I can't remember what it was, but Corey, you're 100% right. This one gets my blood going. Remember Alexander Vindman? I mean, I don't know why people still put him on television. He probably should be in a jail cell somewhere. But listen to Vindman on television, what he thinks should happen to J.D. Vance and Donald Trump.
I want to know why our ally is allowed to disrespect the United States of America, the leader, the current leader of this free world.
J.D. Vance owes Zelenskyy an apology. President Trump owes Zelenskyy an apology for the way he was treated.
For what?
I demand it. What? I demand that they give
you demand. Okay, so UN resolution number 2.
If you're going to go ahead and say preposterous things like Zelenskyy owes an apology for being attacked, I'm going to go ahead and say something outrageous. Actually, I'm going to go ahead.
Price of you saying that Ukraine wants peace.
I think J.D. Vance should resign. How about that?
There it is. There's the soundbite. Vindman is demanding J.D. Vance resign and Donald Trump apologize to President Zelenskyy. Your thoughts?
You know, Eric, I think what people do is they get on these networks and they want to do something that goes viral to help their own, benefit down the road. And look, the reality is the American people are with President Trump. They saw firsthand what transpired in that Oval Office meeting. They saw the fact that Mr. Zelenskyy couldn't wear a suit to the Oval Office. It's a little bit of a disrespectful thing, in my opinion. That being said, look, he's entitled to do whatever he wants to do, but the American people and the American taxpayers are not obligated to continue to fund what seems to be an endless war. And I think, unless I'm wrong, the American people want an end to this war, which continues to transpire, which is the policy of this President of the United States. I think our soldiers, our resources should be here in the United States whenever possible and only utilized as a last resort.
One more. I want to end with politics because you're the political guy. You're one of the smartest political people on the planet. Remember Tim Walz, who was part of the last attempt at unseating Donald Trump to be this president? Tim Walz, ready for this? You have the full screen up. Tim Walz says he's going to run for president in 2028. Corey, I don't know about you, but whoever runs the Republican ticket, I think I would welcome a Tim Walz as a competitor. What are your thoughts?
Listen, Eric, this is an amazing country, and people can do whatever they choose to do, and some have more success than others. I remember it wasn't that long ago when there were very few people who thought Donald Trump was going to be a serious candidate for office, and obviously we know how that turned out. But let me tell you the difference, Eric, is it's about policies. It's not about politics. It's about the policies that benefit the American people, and closing our border and putting Americans first are policies that resonate across the political ideology, the political spectrum, socioeconomic class, and what we're seeing now over this administration is a president who is willing to do exactly that, which is to fulfill the promises of keeping Americans safe from all enemies, both foreign and domestic.
All right, we're going to leave right there, brother. Those are the words we needed to end that segment on. Corey Lewandowski, always good to have you. Good to see you again, my friend.
Thanks, Eric.
All right, folks. We will be right back in 2 minutes. Alrighty, folks, check this out. It's a new day in America and a new administration in Washington, D.C. There's a lot of excitement and optimism about the future, but the reality is there's a lot of work to do, especially when it comes to fixing our broken healthcare system. The truth is that the forces that are responsible for breaking our healthcare system aren't going to simply go away. The challenges our system faces won't disappear overnight. Now more than ever, you need to be prepared. That's where the Wellness Company comes in. Their doctors are medical professionals that you can trust, and their line of prescription medical kits are the gold standard when it comes to keeping you safe and healthy. Whether it's the medical emergency kit, the contagion kit, the first aid kit, or the travel kit, these prescription kits contain an assortment of life-saving medications and guidebooks to assist in the proper use of these medications, from the flu to strep throat, from COVID to the bird flu, from a trip to the beach to a trip overseas. The Wellness Company has a prescription kit designed to keep you and your family safe. Make America healthy again starts at home. Do your part and protect the health of you and your family. Go to twc.health/voice today and order. That's twc.health/voice and use the promo code VOICE and save 10 cents. That's what they look like there. The geopolitical fallout from Zelensky's tantrum at the White House Friday has been intense. We've been talking about it all day. I guess the little man from Ukraine had some time to think. With his tail between his legs, he's reportedly ready to sign that minerals deal with President Trump, and that is no shocker. The mainstream media, of course, made Trump and Vance out to be monsters after Friday's clash with Zelensky. Of course they did. What they failed to mention is that Trump is not the first president to simply have enough of Zelensky's arrogance and demands. Now listen to this, and from all places, NBC, well, way back in 2022.
Yeah, that's right, Kate. So in this conversation, President Biden called President Zelensky to tell him about a roughly $1 billion package of additional equipment and weapons for the Ukrainian military coming from the United States. During the course of the call, President Zelensky continued, according to a number of officials who we spoke with who are familiar with the call, President Zelensky continued to talk about the additional equipment and weapons and support that he and his military needed. According to these officials, they said that President Biden finally just got frustrated and lost his temper and told President Zelensky, look, you could be a little bit more grateful.
Well, isn't that interesting? I mean, where's the outrage about that? MSNBC or CNN or whatever the heck that was. But you notice how if it's Trump, it's horrible. If it's Trump, he's always wrong. But Biden had the same issues with little Z-Man. At this point, I think the stubborn, brainwashed Democrats would rather support a brick wall than Donald Trump. Zelensky's not the hero that the corrupt media has made him out to be since he clashed with Trump. He doesn't care about a long-term, mutually beneficial relationship with our nation. He cares about himself, and he's proven that. In case you need further proof, well, here's a clip of Zelensky talking about the need for U.S. soldiers in the future. Listen carefully.
The U.S. will have to send their sons and daughters exactly the same way as we are sending their sons and daughters to war, and they will have to fight because it's NATO that we're talking about, and they will be dying.
So there is a very important comment by Zelensky. And Zelensky has now said, I believe today, he said, if you admit Ukraine into NATO, he would step down. Well, guess what, folks? Don't buy that, because exactly what he said is right. Article 5 of NATO says that if a country gets attacked by an outsider of NATO, we have to defend as a group, as a NATO group. Why would you bring Ukraine into the group that we're going to have to defend when we know they've had an ongoing conflict with Russia for the last 8 years, 9 years, 12 years, actually, maybe even longer. I mean, why would we do that? That's insane to admit Ukraine into NATO, because we would lose our treasure, our blood, our young men and women. There's a very real chance that Zelensky finally crossed the line. See, unlike old Joe, our current president actually has a spine. I know the man personally. My guess is that he didn't appreciate getting I don't know, shown up or that attitude in the White House by a foreign leader who has demanded and received so much from the United States. Trump is set to meet with his advisors and may cut off all aid to Ukraine for good. Zelenskyy will have nobody to blame but himself, and is normally the case, some of America's biggest names refuse to advocate for the truth. American actress, remember the mermaid, Daryl Hannah? Well, she made sure to let everyone know where she stands on the war. By the way, why do we care what Daryl Hannah thinks of the war in Ukraine during her Oscar speech last night?
Slava Ukraine. The world.
That was on and on, folks. I mean, I had to watch it. I had to watch it. It was Ukraine. It was anti-Israel, pro-Hamas. It was just horrible. These people, I wish they just stick to acting bad. But if she's so passionate about the war, grab a helmet and a gun, Daryl. How about it? Go fight. Of course, that will never happen. Just like most of Hollywood, she would rather wear her stupid pin and put a dumb emoji in her Instagram bio and accept the public validation that she so desperately craves without doing a damn thing to actually make a difference. For anyone who claims to be so passionate about this war and this greedy president, well, check this one out. This is a clip from the streets of Ukraine. A man walking his dog forced into a van against his will. Why? Well, he's being forced to go fight in the war that his president has no interest in ending. I got to tell you something right here, right now. Zelenskyy doesn't want to end the war. He could have ended the war. He doesn't want to negotiate. Trump could end the war. Zelenskyy wants this to keep going. Zelenskyy left Trump and went to meet with Starmer in Great Britain. And Starmer says, hey, you know what? We'll put boots on the ground for you. Don't worry. We got you. They want this war to continue. We want it to end. They want it to continue. Why? Because there's a ton of money going through Ukraine right now. And that little guy, Z, if he doesn't get killed by his own soldiers, will be one of the wealthiest people on the planet. One of the wealthiest people on the planet when he leaves. Because they've been extorting money left and right. I kid you not. Ukraine used to be, and maybe still is, the money laundering center, certainly of Eastern Europe, but maybe of the world. It's a very, very corrupt place. I have a hunch when Zelenskyy says he can't find $107 billion of the $200 billion we've given him. He can't find it. Maybe that means he put it in his own pocket. I don't know, but I guarantee you there's a lot of corruption going on. This is interesting. The Logan Act, which prohibits U.S. citizens from negotiating with foreign governments without authorization, may have been completely shattered here, as pointed out by the great Roger Stone, quoting, Obama's team, including Anthony Blinken, Victoria Nuland, Susan Rice, and Alexander Vindman, who we just heard from, advised Zelenskyy to reject Trump's deal in violation of the Logan Act. Attorney General Pam Bondi should appoint a special counsel to investigate and prosecute this crime. Cool. Pam Bondi, she's getting a lot of heat online, folks, and just have to bring it up. She's getting a lot of heat. We're still waiting for that Epstein list. Her name came up. We're still waiting on that list, Pam. Deliver it. Pam and Cash, come on, guys. We backed you. We want to see that list. You're going to produce it, right? Right? In the meantime, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer clearly chose Ukraine over the U.S., a decision that he will almost certainly regret. And I mentioned it before, but hear it out now.
First, we will keep the military aid flowing and keep increasing the economic pressure on Russia to strengthen Ukraine now. Second, we agreed that any lasting peace must ensure Ukraine's sovereignty and security, and Ukraine must be at the table. Third, in the event of a peace deal, we will keep boosting Ukraine's own defensive capabilities to deter any future invasion. Fourth, we will go further to develop a coalition of the willing to defend a deal in Ukraine and to guarantee the peace. Not every nation will feel able to contribute, but that can't mean that we sit back. Instead, those willing will intensify planning now with real urgency. The UK is prepared to back this with boots on the ground and planes in the air.
You hear that? Boots on the ground, planes in the air, he says. Boots on the ground, planes in the air. They don't want peace, folks. They want more war. War is good for business in Europe and Middle East, I guess, too. People like war. Let's end this crap, right? Shall we? We'll be right back. Well, you don't go out and buy a life jacket when the boat is already sinking, and you don't buy gold when the economy has already collapsed. Clearly, others are heeding this advice as gold hits all-time highs in the first part of 2025. It's not too late for you, too. It's going to continue to go. Folks, I've been a gold bug and trader for 30 years. $3,000 an ounce now could be $5,000 an ounce in 10 years. The company I trust to help diversify into physical gold is Birch Gold. The company I buy my gold from, Birch Gold. Birch Gold specializes in helping you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, the actual real gold, for no money out of your pocket. Just listen to this 5-star review. Quote, knowledgeable, helpful, non-pressure. That's what you get with Birch Gold, and that's why I've endorsed them for so long. Get your free info kit on gold by texting the word America to the number 989898. There's no obligation, just useful information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews, text America to 989898 and let the experts at Birch Gold help you secure your future today with gold. And again, I'm being honest about that. I've always been involved in gold since I first stepped on Wall Street 20-something years ago. Gold, 30 years ago, even more. Gold has been the best investment ever. All right, did you ever think we'd get to this point where being anti-war is considered to be right-wing? Weren't the left once all about flowers and peace and lovenicks? What happened to give peace a chance? Those peace signs, stickers, Woodstock, what, nothing? Can you imagine hating one man so much that you'd rather see endless war than to have our president be responsible for ending one of the many? That's where we are. Democrats and Trump derangement syndrome victims only see one way of being, and that's anti-Trump. Like I said earlier, if Trump said he'd love oxygen, Democrats would put a bag over the head and tape it shut. And that illness would lead America into another world war, if not for 47, President Trump. Let's get into it. Those who watched what went down in the Oval Office on Friday with truth and knowledge understand precisely what went down. Zelenskyy thought he had America wrapped around his tiny little finger. Well, he did for a while, but what's more important is whose finger Zelenskyy is wrapped around, and it goes as far back as the Clintons and the Bushes and Obama's 3 terms. They set the stage for this never-ending proxy war with Zelenskyy as their willing actor. He was an actor in his costume of army fatigues. What happened after he disrespected the leader of the free world, our vice president, our Oval Office, and America, he ran back to Europe, where the UK, Canada, and Europe took sides with him, Zelenskyy, in Ukraine against America, and promised to help Zelenskyy extend the war and the bloodshed. He's lucky he was even invited to make good on the billions Americans, hundreds of billions Americans have given him after the stunt he pulled during the presidential election. Remember, this was quite a sight in Pennsylvania back in September, recently, signing those missiles intended for inside Russia. He smiles on everyone's faces. Look at that, so smug, so proud of themselves. The president of Ukraine stumping for more coffer filling from his preferred future president, Kamala Harris. A 4th term Barack Obama, that would have meant more of the same. High fives with globalists, 10 more years of killing Russian and Ukrainian boys, except that Americans are done with it. We're done paying for it. We're done with it. And Americans voted in our America First president to get it done on our behalf. But because President Trump and his team are fighting for peace, Democrats, once the peace-loving anti-war party of love, actually have no interest in it anymore because of Trump. They love terrorists now who kill children. And they love a war defending a country they know absolutely nothing about. At this point, if President Trump really wants the war to end and establish peace, he should say that he wants the war to continue until Russia is conquered. That way, the entire world will work to stop the war, just to counter what Trump says. That's where we are. On the left, they'll remove their terrorist-affirming signs for now. Hamas is not the flavor of the moment. Their Marxist revolution goes wherever the anti-Trump wins. Take them. What was it? COVID was the new climate change. Ukraine became the new COVID. Hamas became the new Ukraine. Now, wait a minute. Trans became the new Ukraine. And now we're back to Ukraine again. It's hard to keep up because the movement is the same. Only the colors on the flag seem to change. But it's all part of the same bleeding, violence-lusting Democrat hearts. They're wearing blue and yellow shirts today, in June. The shirts turn rainbow-colored, all part of the same thing later. Can someone help me? I'm confused. So Zelenskyy is a hero for putting Ukraine first, but Trump is a fascist for putting America first?
So, unfortunately, we have someone that is occupying the White House, and as far as I'm concerned, he is an enemy to the United States. He swore an oath just like the rest of us. But right now, when you are literally putting us at risk, all because of what? Because you want to convince your followers that you should be a dictator too, that you should never leave the White House, because you don't believe that elections should take place. I don't really understand what is going on, and I don't know what it's going to take to get people to wake up.
Can someone help me make it make sense? They stand with Ukraine and are ashamed to be American Jazzy Jasmine Crockett from Texas, all because the American President Trump told a foreign leader that the U.S. wants peace, not a forever war. Peace, love. Anybody, any Democrat? Putin's a precarious figure. The invasion of Ukraine is tragic, but the facts that exist cannot be done away with. Pushing NATO closer and closer to Russia's doorstep was a red line for Putin, and the West pushed up and over that line, period. And enough of this Trump is a Putin asset BS. They seem to forget once upon a time it wasn't so taboo to make nice with Russia, right?
Look, Mr. Putin he's very smart.
Well, you know him better than most people.
Yeah, I do.
What was he like behind closed doors, away from, the sort of the public utterances?
Smart and remarkably, we had a really good, blunt relationship.
Did Putin ever renege on a personal agreement he made to you?
He did not.
Okay, all right. Okay, more reminders, a little more history for you Dems. Okay, George Bush let Putin invade Georgia, not the state, the country. Barack Obama let Putin take Crimea. Joe Biden let Putin invade Ukraine. President Trump didn't let Putin do a damn thing. So who's the Russian asset now? And our own president issued a stark and needed reminder, and I'm quoting President Trump: we should spend less time worrying about Putin and more time worrying about the migrant rape gangs, drug lords, murderers, and people from mental institutions entering our country so that we don't end up like Europe. He's right. We should be worrying less about Putin and more about fixing what needs to be fixed right here at home. Remember that? Invaders, crime, inflation. Remember? Time to leave NATO. Leave them to their own devices. The United Kingdom wants to put boots on the ground and planes in the air. Go for it, Keir Starmer. You've already destroyed your country with a flood of migrants who hate you. Why not put the final nail in the European coffin? This war is purely for the military-industrial complex. But wait, there's more. I thought Democrats didn't support them. Isn't the left against them and the military complex? What's happening here? Cats sleeping with dogs? I'm confused. Democrats are for war now? We conservatives are against war? This guy wants us to join World War III, and despite Friday's clown show, he's sticking to it.
The U.S. will have to send their sons and daughters exactly the same way as we are sending their sons and daughters to war, and they will have to fight because it's NATO that we're talking about, and they will be dying.
You little SOB. You little SOB. No, we don't. We don't have to send our sons and daughters into your war. In fact, we can pull out of NATO. And then what are you going to do? Hey, Keir Starmer, what are you going to do then? Where are the billions upon billions going to come from then, UK? The same people you disrespected on Friday so many times before, not going to happen, not on our watch, and most certainly not on President Trump's watch. These America-hating leftists will continue to wear whatever colors they feel that day, but none of them seem ever to be red, white, and blue. Well, it's America first now, Democrats. Get used to it. Do that. With that, wow, look at that, Fort Lauderdale. Oh, look at that, Fort Lauderdale. Looks like fun. There's some great restaurants, by the way, on the water in Fort Lauderdale. Got to check it out, folks, when you come down and visit me. So a couple of sound bites I want to bring in. I want to bring in my mentor, my good friend Steve Bannon, in a second here. Well, he can hear. So let's refresh a little bit of memory, which I believe this is the moment we realize that Joe Biden and the whole Biden family, maybe the whole Democrat Party, are complete corruptocrats. They're horrible people with their own self-interest in mind, not the American people, just their own self-interest. Joe Biden in Ukraine, or talking about when he went to Ukraine and demanded that a Ukrainian prosecutor get fired, or the billion-dollar check that he and Obama had for Ukraine to help them out wasn't going to stay with them. And by the way, that same prosecutor was looking into what Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son, was up to with Burisma, the Ukrainian gas company, which he had no business being a part of, let alone on the board. So Joe Biden talking about admitting that he's a criminal himself. Take a listen.
I got all the good ones, so I got Ukraine. And I remember going over convincing our team, or others too, convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid at the time. Well, they made some genuine, substantial changes institutionally and with people.
What do you know? Let's bring in Steve Bannon. Steve, I mean, let's just refresh what a corrupt country Ukraine is, and those Democrats have been corruptocrats playing right into those hands for a long time. Stephen.
Yeah, this is why, remember, and I said this the other day, is that one of the key things was going to the Hay Adams Hotel. It's right across Lafayette Square from the White House. He was there beforehand. I actually think it's the reason he was 20 minutes late. He met with, and people have said it's just Democrats. It's not just Democrats. There were Republican senators there also, I believe. And I think they pumped him up and said he had backing in the Senate. That's why when Zelenskyy went, he's hammering on these security guarantees. This thing is so corrupt, Brother Bolling, that I think that President Trump has got to walk away. If NATO's big shots, if they got the money, if they have the troops, let them deal with it. President Trump should just now, I believe, be focusing on the rapprochement with Russia and let the chips fall where they may in Europe. We've given them every benefit of the doubt, $350 billion. And how much Zelenskyy, Eric, tells us he only knows the $78 billion he got of the $350 we sent. Yeah. So,
where's half an hour ago I said that he might walk away if he survives this, if he doesn't get taken out by one of his own people, because he clearly doesn't want peace. If he survives, he could end up being one of the richest people on the planet. Keir Starmer says, don't worry about it, Ukraine. U.S., don't worry, we'll get it. Boots on the ground, planes in the air. Steve, that is nuts. That was an opportunity for us to pull out, no?
A big opportunity. As you know, Eric, because you're a deal guy, The United Kingdom, Germany, France, Spain, Italy, all of them face sovereign debt crises. They're talking, they're big talk, but their people are not going to back this when they see what the bill is. They don't have the kind of money that the Federal Reserve prints. So this is a crisis right now.
Yeah. All right. We'll leave it there, Steve. Always, can't wait to watch the War Room. Stick around, folks. Stay with Steve. The War Room. Always, it's a learning experience. Steve, really good to have you. See you again. And lots is going. I'll be in D.C. tomorrow. I'm not sure where you're going to be. Maybe I'll stop by and say hello to you.
Okay. See you in the War Room.